Good in comparison.
What, to me? To my hair?
Yeah, your hair will look good compared to the mess of my hair.
Man, I hope not. I hope we both look good, man. All right, so hey everybody. My name is Sean Christopher Jenkins. This is my boy Justin Lee Howell. He's been on a few videos with me on my YouTube channel, and he helps me with my Bible studies. He helps me to answer people's questions as well, which is what we're about to do right now. So, like I was telling Justin, everybody, one question I always get on social media is, you know, have atheists and a lot of agnostic people or just hell Satan people always comment on my social media pages saying, you know, prove to me that God is real. Like, prove to me that God exists. Like, what's your proof? So in this video, that's what we're doing today. All right. So yeah, Justin, you want to go ahead and start us off? Like, if somebody was to tell you, how would you prove that God is real? What are the ways you would do that? Because I know it's multiple ways to do it, but
Yeah. So since you said there are multiple ways, there's actually like different types of revelation. There's general revelation and then divine revelation. Of course, like throughout the Bible, you see divine revelation where God is speaking to you directly. General revelation is just looking around you, though, and I guess I'll start us off with that because that's kind of how I got into my faith, like bigger into my faith. I always went to church, but like what kind of convinced me um, that there was a God was just like looking at the complexity of the universe.
mhm.
Like when I was reading a book where it was saying during the Big Bang, like for the chances of the molecules forming for life to actually be able to exist, for like the just the general design of the stars and our DNA and everything like that, like the chances of that happening randomly is astronomical. Like it's 10 to the 64th power or something like that, which is like a lot of zeros. I don't even know what how to say that number, but to put it in perspective, someone said the chances of the Big Bang exploding and forming life like that would be if I spilled a jug of milk and it formed a layout of downtown New York. It's just like not possible. You
Right,
have to know that there's a designer out there.
right,
And you still see that those revelations today as well. When I'm just looking outside my window, I see like the trees outside. It's like such a harmonious balance to it. Like the trees give off an amount of oxygen in which I need to survive, and then I'm breathing out carbon dioxide, which the trees need to survive. If you look at how far away the Earth is from the sun, it's like a perfect balance. And I'm going to get my explanations are all going to be scientific because that's my background to it.
yeah,
But the Earth is a perfect distance from the sun to support life as well. If it were any further away, it would be too cold to sustain life. If it were too close, it'd be too hot to sustain life. But we're at a perfect balance. It's like it's all planned. So that's kind of what it means to have a general revelation, just to be able to look around and know that there is a divine creator behind all of that.
yeah, yeah. We talked about it yesterday. So I like one thing I don't like doing with you is just talking about what I'm gonna say before I say it because I feel like I
Mm.
can't do it again on the video in front of everybody.
Right, right.
Because then I'm like, you could be rolling your eyes at me because you don't heard it before. You know what I mean? Um, but yeah, like when you said that, yeah, just how things came into being. Like one of the proofs I got, like just to prove that God is real. Like what? Tell me what thing on earth has come into being just by itself, like just off the fly. Like was a chicken? Did it just originate here? Like, and it kind of go back to the Big Bang. Like people think that everything just popped up. Like, what thing on earth now just pops up like that? Because
Hmm.
if the Big Bang was real, like, not saying the Big Bang is not real or anything, because in a way it could be true, because I get that perspective. But like just saying that everything came into being just swiftly, quickly, like from out of nowhere. Like, why doesn't it happen right now? Like,
Yeah.
so yeah, like that's my thing. Like, what thing on earth, like, artwork, masterpiece doesn't come into being, and nobody be like, nobody made that. Like, it just made itself. Like,
Right.
or
Yeah.
like,
And there was like there was I remember a parent was explaining to a kid, it's like, if you walked up to a sandcastle, are you going to think it happened randomly, like it got washed
right,
up on the beach, or that someone made it? So it's
yeah,
like the same concept.
yeah, and that's my whole point. I hope I articulated better now because I'm kind of tired a little bit. But like, yeah, nothing came into being just coming into being. Like somebody had to make it. So somebody had to make the whole entire world. Like everything's too perfect for nobody to have made the whole thing. You
Right.
know what I mean? Like you were just talking about the sun. Like if it was any closer to us, we'll burn up. If it's any further away from us than what it is right now, it'll be too cold. Like everything is too perfectly orchestrated, and that's only one thing. Like I can only imagine. They said that there's stars in the universe that's bigger than our planet. So
Hmm.
just a star, if it decided to come our way, but forget a star, a meteorite. Like if a meteorite, it doesn't even have to be as big as the Earth, destroy the Earth. That would probably do worse things. But like, I think a meteorite about the size of a certain state in the United States, I think that can destroy the whole Earth. I heard that before. But like the littlest thing can like destroy the planet. You know what I mean? Were you gonna say something?
Yeah, I was saying like I mean there's precedents behind that too. Like the
Hmm.
the meteorite that supposedly killed off the dinosaurs was about the size of like a couple of states in the US, and it just had like a downward trajectory of all this chaos. Like it blew up all this dust that blocked out the sun, it warmed up the planet, so it didn't even have to have like an impact that affected the whole earth. It just had to have like a domino effect of just destroying anything that was habitable on the planet. That's what killed the dinosaurs. And yeah, that's, as he said, it was just something small.
Yeah, man. Like it's just the littlest thing can cause the Earth just to go away. But
Yeah.
somebody got to be sustaining it. Like some people think that God's afar off and he has nothing to do with creation at all, you
Hmm.
know, and he doesn't care. Like he's just a God that's given up on creation just because all everything that's going on. But like no, like he maintains everything. He's keeping tabs on everything. He's making sure everything works out as planned. Which is before I even spoil it, like I just want to pull out Psalms 148. That text we're going to be talking about. Like honestly, I want to do a video like Monday or something Tuesday. Cause I'll be ready, man. I'm trying my best to hurry up and get this out the way so I can move on. We can move on to Proverbs 9 and stuff like that, other scripture verses. But like with Psalms 148, that text literally just talks about how God created everything and everything came into being. But the main point, there's a lot of main points with that text, but the main point is like he made the sun, he made the stars, and they're operating the exact way God wanted it to operate, right?
Yeah.
And because he operated it like that, no, man can try their best to get the sun not to come up again. You know what I mean? They can
Yeah.
try to. I know man has tried to do it. They tried their best to like get the sun to not come up the next day. But no matter what man does, nobody probably has even thought about it. I hope not. But like, what
Yeah.
can you do to stop the sun from rising? What can you do to stop darkness from coming?
Hmm.
Like God promised every single day, every single night, the sun's gonna rise. Like so, if that's the case, like God has created certain things to operate a certain way, and they have to obey Him. The
Hmm.
sea, the ocean, sand. Like I don't know how much water fills the whole earth compared to land, but I'm pretty sure it's like 70%. It's probably more now.
75 to 80%. Yeah.
Right. So that's like I wonder if the ocean can drown everybody. Like if something could happen with it, 85, 80%, that's a lot, man.
Yeah.
70%, that's a
Yeah.
lot. You know what I mean? Like the littlest thing, like I don't know.
Yeah.
But
Everything's
like,
like so balanced. Like when, if, yeah, because like when scientists were trying to throw in a bunch of proteins, when they were trying to imitate how the earth started and how like life started, they like threw in all these proteins into this soup to try to, and then they like shocked it with lightning, I guess,
Mhm.
Frankenstein style. But like it's something they can't do in the lab because it's like such a fine-tuned process.
Right.
Even if they could recreate it in the lab though, it's like, do you think what are the chances that just happened randomly as well?
Mhm. Yeah. Like, it's so much, man. Like, if God wasn't real, just try duplicating some of the stuff that's he created,
Hmm.
like, without using any of his resources. Like, you can't make a tree from a tree seed or whatever, however you make a tree. Like,
Yeah.
you can't how make another human being without sex, without anybody else's help, without doing the little egg thing, whatever the sperm egg thing. I don't know what it's called.
Oh,
Uh,
yeah.
donating your eggs, donating your sperm, all that
It's
stuff.
like, yeah, it's like in vitro fertilization, something like that.
Yeah, man. Like, but that's beside the point. Like, let's keep on going. Like,
There's another, yeah, there's a, just since we're still on the topic of uh how delicate everything is. I was looking through my some of my other books as well. There was an argument too about like the evolution of animals. And like you may or may not believe in evolution, but like microevolution at least exists. Like you see small
mhm,
changes move through species. Um and one of the interesting parts is poisonous animals. Like how did those develop? And the thing is there are so many safety factors that go into poisonous animals to make sure they don't get poisoned as well. Like
mhm,
for some species of poison dart frogs, they have a specialized sac that makes sure that the poison doesn't affect them. And an argument is like all of those safety measures would have to have developed at the same time in order for them not to die. If only one thing developed, it wouldn't have they would either die or it wouldn't make sense. Like if the poison dart frogs just suddenly start to develop poison without the protective safety sacs, then they would just like all be dead. But the thing is they all developed at the same time, almost as if there was a clear plan that okay, in order for this animal to survive, it needs this and this and this and this. Like it wasn't a usually for the theory of evolution is everything happens by a randomized mutation, which of course is true. But there's no way all of that could have been just randomized without the animal just dying off completely.
mhm.
If that made sense. I
Yeah.
feel it's a bigger topic than I made it out to be, but I'm trying to condense it a lot for this discussion.
Yeah, like I'll stop on the creation thing because like I haven't studied science and stuff like that too much. And
Mm,
then even then, if I did, like everybody's knowledge is limited. We talked about that in First Corinthians 13. Like
mhm.
we all of us know in part, just part truths. No matter how much you know about a topic, no matter how much you know about basketball, football, science, mathematics, like there's always more. Like when we
Mm,
don't know the more until we get to heaven. Like God knows all science because He is science. He created it all. Like so, just from that alone, God has way more knowledge than everybody else. So, like we're not gonna know everything till we meet Him face to face. Like
yeah.
we can ask questions and discover it then. Because even then, I'm pretty sure we still won't know it all, and we'll still be figuring out and learning things. You know what I mean? Because we ain't God. So, but anyways, another way I would answer that question to like proving that God is real. Like, what was the question again? How do you prove that God is real?
Yeah.
Right. So, what are some proofs? So, mine's more logical. Like, I would ask that with another question. That's what I tend to do, and some people hate that. Like when you answer a question with the question, like, how do you get to know God? So you want somebody to prove that God is real. How do you get to know God? Like, how do you, if I told you right now, how do you get to heaven? Like, not how do you get to heaven, but go to heaven right now. Like, you believe in God, go to heaven right now. How do you go to heaven? How do you hear from God? How do you get to know God? There's only one way. Like, there's multiple ways, where God speaks, right? Like, he speaks through creations and
Mm,
everything like that. He can speak through people, but what's the one tool that we know for sure you can hear from him? And that's the Bible. Like, there's no better solution than the Bible. The Bible even says that. You want to hear from God, you got to go to his word, right? So, the biggest reason why we know that God is real and there's proof to why God is real? Because the word. How long has the Bible existed? Like I talked about that with you yesterday. Like how long has the Bible existed? It's the longest lasting book ever. It's the most sold book ever. It's and then even before it came into print from the King James in like the 1600s and 1700s, it still existed, guys. Like it existed when it was first a scroll and the prophet first wrote it, and everybody still depended on it and leaned on it then. So if it existed for that long, how is it fake? You know what I mean? Like I
Mm,
understand how people think man manipulate stuff and everything like that.
mm,
And that's one thing they do is limit the Bible to man writing it. But we know from the scripture that it's more than just man writing it. How else is God going to use somebody? No, how else is God going to speak to us? He going to write it himself? Like he only did that with the Ten Commandments. And I think Moses slammed that on the ground. I think God made another set. I don't remember. I think he did. But anyway, either way it goes, like, why would God write something himself? He doesn't operate like that. You know, he likes to use man. He likes for men to be partakers and co-workers with him when it comes to salvation and faith. So if you know the Bible, you already know that's in his word. Like, so a lot of people speak out of context and speak without knowing the context or knowing the Bible, and they think they know it. So like a lot of atheists and agnostic people that comment on my stuff, like, you know, they try to quote the Bible, don't know the Bible. Why would God use anybody else but a man to help him? Like it gives him glory. Man was made in his image. So this is one of the biggest proofs that we have that God exists. Because how bad is man? Man's incredible. You ain't just as you ain't all that in a bag of chips for nothing, right? God made you to be like that. Like
yeah,
man is the best creature and the best of all his creations. It's even better than the angels, and the angels are even more fascinating. Like we haven't even talked about angels. You know what I mean? Like so, like, and that's another thing. How do you prove that God is real? This is a side note. If people, everybody believe in demons, ain't nobody in the right. I've never heard anybody say they don't believe in demons, right? So
right.
one thing I would like to do if my YouTube channel ever popped off like that, I would like to just take an atheist, somebody that comment, and we go to a haunted house together and we film it, right? Because I want to see who they gonna call upon when crap hit the fan, right?
You
When
can
stuff
edit that out, right?
right when stuff hit the fan, like who do they call on? Like when emergency happen in life, like are they gonna just try to fight for themselves? Like no, like we go if we put ourselves in a life or death situation, who are you gonna call upon?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody does it. Even the people that say they all mouth right now talking all that crap. But like put them in a life or death situation, a gun to their head. But let's make it worse. Like you're falling from a plane, you about to plummet to your death. Who you gonna call upon? Like you know what I mean? Like people, that's when you call upon God because that's when you want to believe him. When when you finally figure out that life's bigger than you and what you can do. Like you're not in control of everything. God is. Like people's minds start going there. And it should have been there to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
it's
because like
yeah,
the Bible even says, and I'd have to look up where the verse is, that the Lord has written the laws and the morals on our heart. Like everyone has a hunger for spirituality. Like even someone who doesn't believe in God will still be wondering like what their place is in the world. Like why do you think the biggest question of our life is what is my purpose, or what are we doing here, or why were we made? Like if we from a materialistic view, if we were just here randomly, then there's your answer. It's like the most depressing answer ever. Like there is no reason. Like have you talked to anybody who just says, "Oh, there's no reason we're here"? Because no one really believes that. Everyone intrinsically already believes that we have a purpose, and that's why we keep seeking that out. Even if you deny God, even if you say He's not real, He is real, and that's the truth. And
yeah,
like people still feel His presence. And as you
yeah,
said, they're still going to be yelling out to somebody. They
right.
believe in their inner soul. They believe that there is a God.
Yeah. It's just too much. Like when you gotta like pick up on the small things in life too. But there's big things too, right? But you gotta pick up on the small things, just the way lions, frogs, we talked about rock badgers, scorpions, and lizards we're about to talk about. Not scorpions, spiders, ants, like just the way all of them operate. They're glorifying God. All of creation is glorifying God and trying to point us to God because they're showing us how we need to be operating in our lives. And they do it in different ways, right? So go to my YouTube channel and check out Rock Badgers, that series we did talking about rock badgers in Proverbs 30, verse 24 to 28. All right, but yeah, like guys, like the Bible proves that God exists, of course, but there's also other things too. Like I'm trying to think of some other stuff because um
Just while we're talking about the Bible, there's two things I want to say about that.
mhm,
And one of them is from a historical point, another one is more from a spiritual point. I'll start with the historical point because it's the boring part first. Then I'll get into the more interesting one. But like the interesting thing about the Bible is you have like over 44 authors all writing for the Bible, and they're all pointing towards God. And it's like spanning centuries, and they don't contradict each other. Lots of people say, "Oh, the Bible contradicts itself," but if you look at it, it really doesn't. Um, and somehow, people spanning centuries all have this consistent word about God, about a ever powerful, just loving God. And that's there's no other book in creation that does anything like that.
right,
And the interesting part is we were talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls. Now, I'm trying to think how to put this. A good example is like for Alexander the Great. Everyone believes Alexander the Great existed, right?
mhm,
But the weird thing is, people didn't start writing about him until 300 or 400 years after his death. Like, so no one alive at the time actually wrote about him. Yet we all take that for face value. But
yeah,
with the Dead Sea Scrolls, those were dated back to like 300 BC, like 300 BC to 160 AD. And it showed like all the testimonies that happened, like during the Old Testament and during Jesus's time, um, of people who actually experienced some of the events that happened in the Bible. And it's like it happened during that time when the events happened. And they actually dated the scrolls back to that time. So if they if we believe the works of something of a guy who died 300, 400 years before, why can't we believe the testimonies of people who were actually there as well? And the Roman Empire was like very strict. Like if you were writing anything that was blasphemous or not true, you'd be put to death. It was a lot more serious back then. It's not like the internet where you can put down whatever you want. Like Abraham Lincoln was a vampire killer. No,
right,
if you wrote down something false, you would be put to death for it. But
yeah,
somehow all these testimonies still circulated, and we found the earliest transcripts that we could find through the Dead Sea Scrolls.
mhm,
Now, for the more interesting part that you're talking about, the scripture is alive, though. Like some you can we can argue back and forth. I started the video talking about the science part of it because that part is easily arguable. I have like no I can say there's a designer, but someone could argue against that. What you
yeah,
can't argue against is someone's testimony, though, like
right,
how they feel when they read the Bible. And I've talked with so many people who have just had their lives changed from reading the Bible or from experiencing God that you can't deny didn't happen because this was part of their story. Just 2 weeks ago, I talked to a guy who said he had a divine intervention that led him to Jesus because when he was 4 years old, he was run over by a car but didn't have a single broken bone. And he said he just felt Jesus in that moment. It's like you can't deny something like that. It just shows that the spirit is something that's alive. And
mhm,
when you read the Bible, you can't just read it as scripture. Like if two people read the same verse, they may get completely different things out of it, and that's because that's how the spirit is moving in them at that time.
yeah. Yeah, man. There's so many ways. Like, I should have wrote down my notes before.
Yeah. Sorry that
I
was like winded. I just had all of this prepped up, so I hope that
You helped me to think better. But first of all, did you watch that movie with Abraham Lincoln and zombies or something? You
no, I
remember?
had a friend who was in that movie though.
He was in it.
Yeah, he's a background character.
Was he a zombie?
No, he was there by accident. It was at his university.
Oh wow, okay. I gotta watch it so I can see what you're talking about.
Oh,
Most of
I need to
them,
watch it too sometime.
yeah, I don't think it's on Netflix no more. I remember it being on Netflix forever, like when
Oh,
Netflix,
was it? Oh, dang.
yeah, when Netflix first came into being, but I haven't seen it since then. There's no way it's on there now. Like it's been like at least 5 years, bro. Like
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's
yeah,
been a long time.
yeah. And they don't keep stuff past 5, like not like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, some other ways to prove that God is real is like who else are you gonna believe in? Like like my roommate back in the day, around when I first graduated from college, and he was my roommate. First of all, long story short, what he was questioning the Bible. He had a lot of doubts about it, like everybody, most people do. And so he
Mm,
wanted to ask me questions and have a conversation with me. I warned him. I said, "Man, if you have a conversation with me, all you're gonna do is believe the Bible. You're gonna turn to Christ." He's
mm,
like, "Oh, hey, yeah, sure." I was like, "I promise you, I'm 100. I'm a batting at 100. Like, ain't nobody has ever talked to me and heard from me who ain't came to Christ." So, like, and so I told him, like, he was like, "How can you depend on something written by man? How can you depend on something that has so much errors in it?" That's how most people look at it, right?
right.
And but that goes back to the question I asked, like, where else can you go to hear from God? Because you can't just say, a lot of people do that, like with spirituality and stuff, like, I'm gonna just come into the spiritual being of myself, like with yoga or something. No, no, like, just
Mm,
they just think they can get there themselves. Like, but again, let's ask that question again. Like, if I told you, you say you believe in God and spirituality and stuff, right? Go to God right now. How you gonna go to him? Where else can you go? Where's his truth? Where's his revelation? Where he speaks through his word? Like that's what the Bible says. Like,
mm,
so like, what if you deny the Bible, right? And you just depended on what you think and what everybody else think? That's dependent on what man believes. So who knows more, man or God? Because how long has God existed? Like, how long has the Bible existed? It exists. It's the longest lasting book. Again, like it's probably the oldest thing in history right now that we have. So why would something last for so long and sustain for so long? Because God has truth in it. You know what I mean? Like God sustained it, just like He sustained all creation. He's letting the sun go up when He go up, and it's always gonna go up. Everything's being sustained by Him. Like His word, His infallible word. It even says in the Bible, it's always gonna be sustained. All the prophecies in the Bible are coming into fruition. It literally says somewhere with the minor prophets that Russia was gonna invade Ukraine. I didn't even know that. We
didn't
gotta
he?
study that. Yeah, it did.
Mm,
But like all these prophecies are coming true. Like I'm not even gonna go through them. But like what else was I saying? Man, something came up in my mind. I want to stop and say it. But yeah, like where else, who are you gonna believe in? God or man? Like this is all we got. This is literally all it is. God even said it, man. You want to hear from me? Go to my word. Like, so are you gonna believe in what man says or God? How long has man existed? The oldest lasting man right now is probably 120 years old. You know what I mean? Maybe 140. Let's go up. How much knowledge does a 140-year-old have to have in comparison to God, who has existed for how long? Like we don't even
mm,
know. So
yeah.
like, why believe anything anybody says? Because what do you really know? What do we really know?
Mm,
I don't care how the most smartest person on earth right now knows nothing compares to God. So like I'm willing to put my money and bank on and all my eggs on what God says and what he believes rather than what anybody else says. Like that's smart. Like if God is real, which most people believe he is, why even think anything different? Like you know what I mean? Like that's so stupid to me. Like, and that's the only thing I said to my roommate. Another thing I said was just bringing up Jesus. Like with Jesus, man, what man can go through what Jesus went through? Like
mm,
most people, I really feel like they don't know what Jesus went through. You know what I mean? Like we talking about 39 lashes and you getting beaten,
mm,
right? So he got a beating, he got pounded, and I know it was multiple times, right? Before he was crucified,
mm.
all in one setting, right? So all when
And
they,
they used a whip called the nine tails. So
mm-hmm,
nine tails too had like pieces of ceramic and glass that cut into the skin and the bone. So it wasn't just like a lash. It was like metal pieces like tearing into his muscle as well. Like
yeah.
it, yeah, it's gosh, I did a medical report for like the beating he went through, and it's a lot worse than people realize.
Hmm. Yeah, man. And also with the lashes too. I heard that glass was on it as well, like shattered glass,
Hmm.
and we know that's real sharp. So
Yeah.
when they were giving him his 39 lashes, he had the metal, which I don't know if anybody ever had a metal splinter before. I just had it on
Mm.
my middle finger, my left middle finger, and I couldn't see it. Like so, but I would feel it anytime I went up on my clothing. I think it's a way. I think it finally came off after like 9 months, but I'm
Mm.
scared to do it because like just the pain I feel, and that's
Yeah.
just from one little. Not even I can't even see it. It's a shard of metal so small. It's
I had a
embedded.
glass I had a glass splinter stuck in my finger one time and I didn't know it, but it like swelled up and it hurt
Mhm,
so bad. I had to like take a knife and carve it out just to because I knew what it was. I had accidentally broken a glass a while ago, but it was like so small, but it hurt so much too.
yeah,
And then after his muscles and after his skin were torn up, he had to carry like 120, 130 pound cross on his back up
yeah.
the hill.
And they put wool on him before that, and multiple times. I kept on taking it off of him.
Mm.
And we talking about this is he's naked, by the way. When he's going through the crucifixion, when he's going through the lashes, when he's going to take up the cross, when they captured him, he's naked. So for his embarrassment, like Jesus just went through so much, guys. Like,
And yeah, and the crown of thorns, those thorns are like 2 inches long too. And
yeah.
those stuck in his head. Those
Hmm.
went all the way to the skull, guaranteed.
Let's just, man, we ain't even talked about everything. The nails in his foot, man, that's the worst pain. You know how much bones is in your foot?
If you also in his hands as well. The people who studied the crucifixion say like the nail probably wasn't in his palm. It was probably like in his
Yeah, wrist, like,
yeah,
where his
probably in the
veins are.
wrist right there because if it were in the palm it would tear off and fall down, but it was probably in the wrist. And if you see a lot of paintings or pictures of crucifixions, like two of the fingers are always bent, and that's like evidence that it's hitting a something called the median nerve. And like what's that doing is causing a sharp shooting pain up the nerve all the way up to his shoulder, all the way to his central system. And it's like to the point where he can't even like control his own hand. And it's
Mhm.
like stuck right in between the radius and the ulna bones. And it's
Yeah,
like right along the transverse ligament or something like that. So then he has like no control over his muscles or nerves, but all he's doing is feeling a shooting pain all through his body.
yeah.
So
But
I
yeah,
know all that was off topic, but
no,
it's
no, it's on
there's
top.
just like so much to there's just like so much of what he went through.
Yeah,
That's
and that's the whole
crazy.
point. Like when somebody tell me to prove the Bible, when I did that with my roommate, man, he long story short, he on fire for God right now. But like when you
Mm,
really look, why would Jesus go through so much? Like if Jesus wasn't real, why are we still talking about him?
mm,
That's what I was gonna say. Why is everything based on AD and BC, like the years? Well, what is 2022? Why we got BC? Because of Christ. Why is everything centered on Christ, like the Bible says?
mm,
Like all of faith is centered on the Bible, like on Jesus.
yeah,
Why? Like he's not real? Like are you kidding me? Like that's just that thing, right? Everything's based on Jesus, though. When you look through everything, right?
mm,
And that's the way God said things will be, right?
yeah,
And if that's the case, right? Man, like just going back, most people would say Jesus existed, right? But
yeah.
some people, yeah,
Historically, Jesus exists.
right.
Like
And nobody,
that's
yeah,
been proven.
yeah, nobody would doubt that. So if that's real, either Jesus is a prophet, just another prophet like Muhammad, Confucius, but or somebody like that. But why would Jesus go through what he went through if he was one of them?
Mm,
You know what I mean? He went through too much. Like, what man on earth can do that? I don't care how faithful you are to your calling, to anything. And I wish somebody would say they would go through it. Let's put them through it right now. Let's see how far you get.
mm,
You ain't getting that far.
yeah,
Nobody is. I don't care what you believe, how big your conviction is, love for your children. It ain't enough. Like, it
yeah. And
is not.
if you're a crazy man, like he wouldn't be spouting off all this wisdom that still
Mhm.
holds up today as well.
Right.
Like going back to the Bible, psychologists have reviewed his Sermon on the Mount, and they say that is the most psychologically grounded. I'm trying to think how they worded it. It was like the most psychologically grounded um, discussion. Like if you are talking about mental health and positive mental health, like that sermon, they say is like the best thing you can go to. Like if you were a crazy person, there's no way you'd be spouting off something so profound like that.
Right. And it's just too much, man. Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah, yeah.
like,
It's yeah. If you if you study it, you really see like how much he's given for us.
you know,
It's not just something that we. It's not something fake that thousands and hundreds of thousands of people are spouting off. It's something that there's a lot of backing up to it to show that it's true. Like it affects people's lives in a positive way. There's no way
yeah.
that it can't be true.
Yeah, and we even talked about a lot of stuff like why is God real? How is God real? Prove to me that God is real. Like just look at people's lives, man. And I don't we ain't talking about just people that profess to be Christian. It's like that's a most people in the United States do that, but I don't know if that statistic is true anymore. But
Mm,
like look at a real devout Christian, somebody blood brought that's truly divinely devoted to God, and they showed the love of God, even for their enemies. That's how you know they got the love of God.
yeah.
So look at somebody like that. Look at their lives. Ask them what their testimony is. Ask them what God been put them through and what they've been through. And some of the stories you hear, you're just like, man, like that's all God. Like, you know what I mean? Like
Mm,
that's another way to prove that God is real. Just look at their lives, look at their fruit, look at the change that they had before they met God. Like, there's multiple ways to prove that God is real, that He exists and He changes lives. We can keep on going, but like it's up to you to do that research. And most people who stop on one never gonna make it to 10. You know what I mean? Like you got to keep on going, constant research, and that's one thing Christians do. Truly devout Christians question everything. Like a lot of atheists and agnostics would be like, "Man, y'all don't question nothing. Y'all are just gullible and stupid." No, we thought all this out. Like this is logical. Like even I know most atheists, like we just sat down and talked with them. We could find a middle ground because like this is real. This is reasoning right here. Like how did everything come into being? Like how did it just came up? Like what thing in life does that? No, everything takes work. That's
mm,
just believing something like that is contradicting when they be coming for Christians saying like you believe in prayer but you don't believe in work. You know what I mean? Like that's contradicting what you believe. Like
mm,
you know what I'm saying? So like
yeah.
yeah, man, like hard work, man. Nothing comes into being without hard work, without dedication, without commitment, without putting your fingers down and actually doing something. You know what I mean? So yeah, man, like that was my main things I had for that. Did you have anything else? Because I kind of want to
No,
cover that.
those are my main things too. Like I can argue about it all day. So I don't want to. Those are like my primary points.
All right. So you did. I didn't have anything else. Like I think that's all I can think of right now,
Yeah.
unless I pulled out scripture verses or something. But
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I don't want to go into too much detail for a lot of it because eventually I'll just start blabbing. I know I will. So I
yeah,
just want to like keep all the arguments concise and to the point.
yeah.
So that's
But
all I had.
you said the second question was different, which was why do you think God is real? I don't think it's different from proving that God is real. Or
Mm,
well, the first question, tell me how God is real. But you said why do you think God is real is different from
let me take a
the
look here.
first question.
Oh yeah, I think last night I was like telling you how God is real, and then why you think God is real.
Hmm.
When I tell people like um, how God is real, a lot of times like I'll like use a lot of general revelation and special revelation from the Bible to defend my point. On explaining like why I think he's real, I feel like it's I feel like people come to God through their own personal journeys. And I've already touched on it before as well. But everyone has like their own story of like how they came to God. Like you can easily argue if God is real, oh, by the things that we just said. Like, oh yeah,
Mhm.
sure, Jesus could have been a real person, but there's like you can't prove that he was like the son of God and things like that. Or oh yeah, like it looks like the world is perfectly balanced, but you still can't prove that the Christian or Hebrew God is a real thing.
Right.
But for like telling people why you feel God is real is a very personal experience, because as I said before, like for me, it was looking at the science and the harmony
World
of
is
the world. For other people, it was like a moment in their life where they just felt the spirit of God, and that's something you can't argue against as well. You can argue any other point until you're blue in the face. Like there was an author from Nashville, I forgot what his name was, but he wrote the book Blue Like Jazz. He was saying, and I'll paraphrase, like it's you can't it's difficult to use intelligence to argue the existence of God, because the non-believers may have a good argument and they'll win for a while. Then believers will have a better think about it for a while and then come up with a better argument, and then they'll win for a while, but it'll be back and forth. But for stories, for like those divine interventions when God reveals himself to people, that's something you can't argue about. And that's what I see a lot of international students or a lot of people come to God to, because they see Jesus or God in people's lives, not
right.
through not through any theological argument, as fun as those can be, but with how stories have played out in people's lives like that. Like my friend whose life was saved because he felt the presence of Jesus, or uh, some other friends whose marriage was crumbling around them, but then through the strength of God, they were able to intervene. Not easily. I'm not saying it was a one and done deal. It was a process. And
Mhm.
that's what the Spirit of God is. It's a process in you.
Right.
But those are stories that they're not in the Bible. You don't um they aren't necessarily like arguments. They're
Right.
just like stories of how you see God in today's world.
Mm. That's the biggest thing, though. Like, how do you prove that God is real? Through love. Like,
Yeah. Yeah,
that's
that's
the
it.
greatest way you could do it. Like, if an atheist or agnostic, somebody that doesn't believe in God, really want to see God, prove that God is real, just find somebody that will love on you. You know
Mm,
what I mean? And
yeah.
that's the greatest thing. And Paul talked about that. Faith, hope, and love, but the greatest of these is love. Love is the greatest. Like,
Hmm.
without love, how will people come to God? How will people know God? God is love. So you want people to experience God from a Christian perspective. You want to prove that God is real from a Christian perspective. Do you love? Because there's no. I feel like I really truly believe like this statistic would be by a landslide. But how many people come to Christ through somebody else's love? Because that's actually how I came to Christ.
Mm,
I came to Christ and just all of it made sense. Just thinking about all the fruit and how my family operates.
hmm.
And it wasn't even just that. Like God used it against me. Like to prove a point, God really did like a whole. Like long story short, I was in his throne room and he did a whole swoop of my whole entire life, and
Mm,
he just showed me like all of the ways my family showed me his love. Like all this all through each and every single person. So you start off just with my good daddy and my good mommy. So my dad's parents, like I talked about before this video. Then he started talking about my mom and dad, and then he talked about my older brother, who were like 13, 14 months apart. Then lastly, he used my little brother, little sister. But when he used them, he was showing me like just if I chose wrongly and I chose not to serve him and love on him, he showed me how that would affect my little brother and little sister in a negative way. Because obviously it's not gonna be in a positive way, right? But if I
mm,
chose to serve him, he showed me another path. If I chose to serve him and do things his way, he showed me a path of what their lives look like if I just dedicated my life to him. It was totally different because younger siblings, mimic and copy what the older siblings do. Most of the time, like especially if you're real young, they're gonna do. Older siblings are role models. Your younger siblings look up to you. They won't be like you if you're that impressive. So, but yeah, man, like with my siblings, they did everything I did. I remember when I dug in my nose and put it in my mouth when I was younger. John started doing that because he saw me do it. So
Yeah.
that's nasty, right? So, but yeah, like my parents are down here, but like I'll tell you some other time, and you too some other time. But like, man, I wasn't a good son, man. I wasn't perfect. So like God was just showing me all the ways that covered up my sin, which in the Bible it says if you love, you cover a multitude of sins. So you cover the wrongs that others do to you. And what they would always do is just cover my sin. Even though I wasn't a perfect son, I gave them a hard time and everything. Like they still loved on me. And
Yeah.
they didn't have to. And that's what God was showing me. Like God put them in my life and I was in their family so that I can experience his love. And
Mm,
what was I doing with it? Throwing it away, spitting in God's face, saying it wasn't enough. Like I don't care. I want. I want to be a sinner. I want to be like everybody else. When God called me to be one of His servants, so like, how do I? That goes to the second question I asked. Like, why do you believe God is real? Like, I'm not. I should really answer that question and elaborate. Like, it was a great time to tell my testimony, but I can't with popcorn with my family around, man. Like, it's too personal.
yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, that's one of the biggest ways, man. Like God revealed himself to me, honestly. Like he told me how good he's been to me. He's been good to everybody.
Hmm.
Like you may complain at your circumstance in life and stuff like that, but I assure you, somebody got life harder than you do. But most atheists and agnostic and people that don't believe in God will be like, well, this person got awful like they'll look for somebody that has an awful life, like just the worst life ever. And you gonna tell me God is real because you see what God's putting them through, but God still gets glory from that. You don't know what that person knows. You don't know what their relationship's like with God. Because I
Mm,
can assure you, like they like to use handicapped people as an example, or people in Africa. Like, you know, how do people in Africa gonna know who God is? They're gonna burn in hell for not knowing who God. Like,
mm,
I can assure you, we serve a just and a fair God. Like, God doesn't judge people like man judge people. You
mm,
know, you really, if you another good example is like with kids. Like, you really think God gonna let kids perish in hell? Like, there's certain people don't have the right mindset. Like when it comes to being judged. Like, and I'm talking about people that are like handicapped, have limitations and stuff like that. Like, they don't think like we think. Some
mm,
people are blessed with common sense. Some people are blessed with means that makes them just I don't want to say better, but like just more equipped to make the right choices and do things that God wants. Like they have more responsibilities. Yeah, that's what
mm.
that's the word
Oh,
I'm looking for. So like because of that, God's not going. God is a fair and just God. That says a lot, right? So a kid who doesn't have understanding of life or anything like that, because what do you really know as a kid? What is the age of maturity?
mhm,
Because is it the same for everybody? The age of maturity. So you think God's gonna judge every 18-year-old the same way, even a handicapped one? Like
mhm,
you think God gonna judge people in Africa? And let's say hypothetically speaking, even though Americans got the wrong mindset what Africa's like. They think everybody's in zoos and in in the
yeah.
wild running
There's so
around
many countries there.
when it's not like that at all. Like
No, it's not.
so, like God knows what He's doing. He reveals Himself in a certain way to everybody in different ways. It ain't one set way. So I know I said the Bible earlier, but I guarantee people have came to God and got to know God through more than His word.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? So like
Yeah.
God knows what He's doing, and and yeah, that's what I'm trying to say. Like we can't limit God to Him operating a certain way, Him doing this one thing, which a lot of people love doing, atheists or not,
Mm,
Christian, it could be anybody. But like God, like you guys get what I'm saying. Going back to the age of accountability and stuff, though, man, God is a good God, man. He's a loving God. Like I know a lot of people gonna burn in hell, but we're gonna be surprised as to how many people get in heaven too. I already know that too. There's
mm.
gonna be people we look at and be like, "What are you doing here?"
I hope
Like,
so. Yeah.
why are you here? Like, how did you get in here? You know what I mean? And they probably gonna say the same thing about us. But like,
Yeah.
yeah, with handicapped people, everybody's in different situations, different levels, and God's gonna judge everybody according to whatever's fair to them. You know, well, not to them, because a lot of people would they try to cheat God and everything like that, but God won't be mocked and stuff like that. But yeah,
Right.
you guys get what I'm saying, man. There's so much with that. Like that went on a tip. I totally went on a tangent just now, man. But
No, that was good.
yeah, and there's so many other things I could say with that I need to say. I know people are gonna be like, "What?" Like asking questions or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no way we can cover all of it, though.
Yeah,
I feel like we could cover a good bit, though.
yeah, man. But yeah, guys, real like I don't know, man. People don't really pay attention to stuff like that. Like with handicapped people, man, handicapped people are amazing. I told Maya, man, if I
Mm.
could marry a handicapped person, I would. Like if she became handicapped, I'd be so happy. Like I love handicapped people, man. Like just they bring something to the table that we all need. Because honestly, none of us have an excuse to not do what God called us to do. None of us have an excuse who's not handicapped in any kind of way, or even if you have a handicap and it's not even that serious. Like we all can walk, we all can talk, we can all move, we all have our complete being. We don't really have limits.
Mm.
So that gives God glory and honor. Like you can still fulfill your purpose and what you're calling and stuff like that. But even handicapped people have a calling. Even handicapped people are good for something. And you know what they're good for? Inspiring us. Because the way some of them work and operate, man, is just so inspirational. And the reason why they're on earth is to glorify God so that we get the motivation we need to get up, get to work, do something. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? So there's just so much with that. Like that's the one way I know God is real, man. Like when I look at people like that, they still kicking, still fighting, especially the ones that people be like, man, the doctors be like, man, you're not gonna live past 16. They'll be alive till they're 25. Some of them make it to 50. You know what I mean? Like it just depends. Everybody's in a different boat and stuff like that, man. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, man, it's just so much, man. I'll stop because I'm just throwing stuff in now at this point. Did you have anything else with that?
Trying to think. No, because that's pretty much all I had, I
Okay.
think.
All right, yeah. I'm gonna end the video, man. I'll talk to you guys later. Guys, thanks for tuning in. Make sure to subscribe to Justin Lee's Howell's YouTube channel. Uh it's called Chaplain's Log. I'm gonna share my screen so they
Yeah.
can see it. While on my YouTube channel, this is my YouTube channel right here, Upload Past Crossroads. Make sure to subscribe, guys. Make sure to like this video we just did. Share it with others that you know is going to benefit, especially people who are agnostic or atheists or people who won't always say to you in your comment section on your social media platform, prove to me that God is real, like people do to me. But then also, Justin has a YouTube channel as well, and it's called Chaplain's Logs. This is him right here, and he's on his motorcycle. So y'all make sure to subscribe to his YouTube channel. Watch all his videos and like it. Yeah, guys, and he also has a Facebook page as well. So befriend him on Facebook, send him a message, and then let him know that you came from here. But all right, guys, you guys have a good one, and God bless, man. Happy Saturday, and I pray that you guys have a stupendous and remarkable rest of your weeks until we meet again.